Gnowangerup is the combination of two Noongar words, so the words for the male kangaroo and the words for Malleefowl. So Yonga is the male kangaroo and now is the Malleefowl. This is the Shire of Gnowangerup, so technically this is the Shire of the Malleefowl. And that's why it's important for us in this area to keep working around conservation and education of Malleefowls.
My name is Stevie Filipowski. I am the NRM officer at North Stirling's Palinop Natural Resources, and I also work at the Gnowangerup Malleefowl Centre as a project officer. So the purpose of this film is to promote Malleefowl, the conservation of Malleefowl, as well as what the Gnowangerup Shire is doing for Malleefowl specifically and how they are really important to us as a community.
I've sort of been connected with Malleefowl conservation for most of my life, I think. My auntie and uncle were really heavily into the Malleefowl preservation group when it first started. And yeah, there's always been foster block right next to our farm that has had Malleefowl that we've been able to go and see. Actually, one of my first memories was walking into foster block and sitting in the hide and watching Malleefowl work the mound in there.
Yourself? Hi, I'm Sandy Vaux from Gnowangerup farm.
Kingsley Vaux, and we farm 20 k's north of Gnowangerup. Well, if I could start with the story of why the Malleefowl was really came to be, because John Davis, a wood carver of some repute, who's now a bulldozer driver, was commissioned to do a Malleefowl for the Gnowangerup Shire, and he went to the zoo in Perth to study the Malleefowl to do this. And on his third visit, there was no Malleefowl left. A fox had got it, and he thought, gee, how are the ones in the wild going then? So he spoke to a few like-minded people in the Shire and came out to Gnowangerup, where we had a good lot of Malleefowl, and that's how the Malleefowl Preservation Group was initially started. Our farm was on a transient between two populations of Malleefowl here, one over on the Fence Road and Foster Road. So we actually got some funding, and then we fenced off a heap of corridors and re-vegged those areas. So there was about, I don't know, I think about 8 or 9 kilometres involved. Even had the school kids come out and help us plant some of the trees in it. But the Malleefowl is really a the canary of the mine. If it's still around, it just say that the environment is hanging in there. So it's great to see them still surviving.
The Malleefowl are in the megapode family, and within the megapodes, the Malleefowl are really unique in that they're the only megapode that lives in this really dry, arid environment. They have a lot more challenges when it comes to building a mound, which is something that the megapodes are known for. So rather than use their body heat, they will actually build an incubator. When the Malleefowl chicks emerge from the mound, they virtually have to shimmy themselves up to 1 metre out of the sand, and by that time they're nice and dry and fluffy, very, very small. And they're left to fend for themselves, which sounds cruel, but that's just how they're built. They're very much independent little things. They're able to fly from within 24 hours. They're pretty camouflaged. They've got that natural instinct to sit nice and still. But where Malleefowl essentially go wrong in terms of their populations being in decline is that the survival rate of chicks is only 1% to 2%. And that's because if they hatch and they struggle to find food, which you can imagine they would in such small habitats and having to compete with all sorts of other non-native wildlife as well as native wildlife. If they don't find food within 48 hours, they'll essentially use up what's left of the the nutrients they had from the egg, and they will have to spend more time actually searching for the food, which leaves them more exposed to feral predators and they get picked off.
Last year we had 17 chicks all up, and once they reach a good size, so usually within 6 and 7 months, they get released in the wild in different areas that we think are good for their survival rates, and we ban them.
Gnowangerup had a project this year where we were basically wanting to see whether Malleefowl eggs are able to be incubated and whether they successfully hatch and make it to adulthood. So we collected 4 eggs and 3 out of 4 successfully hatched, and they are now at, they're in one of the aviaries at the Malleefowl Centre. They're all males and they will become the next ambassadors for Malleefowl conservation. You can control feral predators, you can protect your remnant vegetation by controlling weeds surrounding it as well as fencing it off. You can also plant more vegetation and create more habitats. In particular, corridors are a huge benefit to species so that they can connect to different populations so they're not stranded in between areas.
So yeah, the Foster Block Malleefowl Reserve has a bunch of malleefowl I've actually been lucky enough to see a lot in the wild, just driving home from work. They're also very good at camouflage, so it's pretty cool to see them in the wild and to learn more and more about them. Just further shows how significant they are to our area and how and why we should save them.